1010 WOLB Baltimore and WERQ FM HD3 Baltimore, serving the African American community for over 44 years. We are 1010 WOLB.
The views and opinions of the guest and host you hear are not necessarily those of the staff and management of Radio 1, its sponsors, or advertisers.
The Business Talk Show is paid for by the Baltimore African American Tourism Council, Incorporated.
The Business Talk Show is live Tuesdays, 11 a.m. to 12 noon. Let's talk about it, making more Black millionaires. With host Lou Fields, Dr. Dennis Rogers. Get updates on business news, tips, and insights from the experts, local and national business leaders, covering business, politics, sports, travel, community development, business fundings, loans, grants, joint ventures, MBE, WBE, procurements, VIP guest interviews, and two-way talk. To participate, call the Business Talk Show hotline at 410-481-1010.
Good morning, good morning. This is the last Tuesday in April, and we have a very, very exciting show for you today, folks. Please, everybody, call your family, call your friends, anybody that loves baseball. Today is the show about Black baseball. I'm your host, Lou Fields, and this is the April 29th edition of the Business Talk Show. But as you know, over the last 4 or 5 weeks, we've been doing a lot on health and wellness, particularly as it relates to the Black Women Cancer Study at the American Cancer Society. Also, our A1C, Let's Defeat Diabetes by understanding what our A1C is. And as you all know, we always start our show off by thanking Dr. Kathy Hughes, because of Dr. Kathy Hughes, we're able to be in the WLB studio. So as you know, thank you very much. As you know, if you're in the Baltimore area, you tell your family and friends to tune in to 1010 a.m. And if you're outside of the Baltimore area, you text your friends and tell them we're live at www.wolbbaltimore.com. The call-in number for today's show is 410-481-1010. Again, this is the Business Talk Show, your host, Lou Fields. And as always, we start off with our thank you to Dr. Hughes, but also we give our dedication. Each week, we try to honor the memory of persons that we know who might have lost their lives in the last 7 days. So today's dedication goes to 4 people. Mayor Jack Young lost his mom, Ida Rather. Whew. Great lady, raised a great man, became mayor of Baltimore City. The second person we're giving shout outs today is a young brother named Majestic Swift. He passed recently having an asthma attack. The third person we are honoring today is Dick Barnett, who was a graduate of the HBCU and a legend in the NBA. He won 2 championships with the New York Knicks, 1970 and 1973. And lastly, we're honoring the memory of Kevin Love's father, Stan Love, who also was an NBA player. In the memory of those 4 persons and all the people that you might know in your family, friends, church, or job who lost someone, we go to the good book. And today's good word comes from the book of John, starting with verse 51, chapter 7, verse 51. It reads, "Does our law judge a man without first giving him a hearing and learning what he does?" They replied, "Are you from Galilee too? Search and see that no prophet arises from Galilee." So they each went to his house, but Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. That comes from the good book, John chapter 7, verse 51 through 53, and chapter 8, verse 1. Again, does our law judge a man without first giving him a hearing and learning what he does? Today is April 29th. It's a very special day for us, particularly Black businesses throughout this country. Today is the 103rd birthday of Perrin James Mitchell. He was born in Baltimore on today, April 29th, 1922. Nicknamed Perrin, he graduated from Frederick Douglass High School in 1940. He earned an undergrad degree from Morgan State and a master's degree from the University of College Park. Perrin sued the University of Maryland to gain admission. He became the first African American to earn a degree from their graduate school. Let's get a round of applause for that. Perrin served as an officer in the United States Army during World War II. He was a member of the 92nd Infantry Division. He was awarded the Purple Heart Medal after being wounded in Italy during the war. In 1970, praise the Lord, Perrin became the first African-American person from the state of Maryland elected to the United States Congress. He represented the 7th Congressional District from 1970 to 1987. PJ, as he was affectionately called, was a founding member of the Congressional Black Caucus. He fought for affirmative action policies. He served as chairman of the Small Business Committee. One of Perrin's most important political achievements was the establishment of the first federal set-aside program for minority businesses. Another round of applause. Mitchell's family was and is still Maryland's most prominent African-American family in politics. His brother was Clarence Mitchell Jr., and of course, you know Clarence Mitchell Jr. was a lobbyist with the NAACP, and he led the effort to pass the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and, of course, the Voting Rights Act of 1965 that we're celebrating the 60th anniversary this year. He also led the effort to pass the 1968 Fair Housing Act. Perrin's Mitchells are Michael and Clarence Mitchell III and IV. Perrin was among Maryland's most beloved elected officials. He was known as a father of minority business enterprise laws and a strong advocate for black business development. Perrin passed away on May 28, 2007. His service was attended by governors, senators, representatives, and thousands of friends and supporters. The University of Maryland College Park renamed their art and sociology department after Perrin. In his hometown, Baltimore, there's a building named after Perrin on Saratoga Street and on Martin Luther King Boulevard. On November the 2nd, this is such a touching moment for myself. On November the 2nd, 1990, 35 years ago, Perrin Mitchell was my first guest speaker at the African American Museum in Columbia, Maryland. My good friend, Robert Clay Sr., drove Perrin to the meeting in a limousine. Perrin was so excited doing his remarks to talk about being picked up in that limousine. These facts, folks, come from the Maryland Black Facts book. Of course, you can find that at www.bdxlive.biz. Now, so today, folks, I want to give you a couple of things before we get into the gist of our talk today. I'm going to give a shout out and hats off to Reverend James over at Whitestone Baptist Church. They just held a wonderful community outreach and health ministries last Saturday. It was just so awesome in terms of people being able to speak their stories about health issues and conditions. We also want to give a shout out to Bishop Clifford Johnson as he celebrated his 86th birthday celebration. And after service, he allowed us to have a black baseball exhibit and discussion. We are going to talk more about that today. Special shout out to my good friend, the late Reverend Anthony McCarthy, whose funeral was yesterday. He was born in Shenandoah Valley, Virginia, and he came to Baltimore and just did everything he could with the NAACP. He became chief of staff for 3 Baltimore mayors, and he was just a great servant of God. He died from kidney disease at age 56. And so the governor, Wes Moore, was there yesterday. 2 different mayors, Congressman Mfume, and many others spoke about their love for our good brother, Reverend Anthony McCarthy. A couple of events coming up, folks. Saturday, May 3rd, Black Men Unifying Black Men invites everyone to their special 142nd consecutive Black Business Black Men Monthly Breakfast. And this is going to be Saturday, May 3rd at the new Pike Studio, 921 Wrightstown Road in Pikesville. And that is a movie theater. And they're going to be celebrating the 100th birthday of Malcolm X and showing the film Spike Lee's Malcolm X. And that's Saturday, May 3rd. All black men are welcome. Free breakfast at 10:30. And they're going to show the movie at 11 with a discussion to follow. Lastly, on Saturday, May 10th, Mother's Day weekend, the good brother, Baltimore City educator Charlie Duggar, will host his 39th annual Motherhood and Womanhood celebration at the African Wall of Pride on Carr Street, right there off of Pennsylvania Avenue. And that goes from 1 to 6 p.m. And he's going to have an African marketplace, food, music, games, poetry, and art, and a modified Paul Robeson basketball tournament. For more information, you can call 410-274-9032. And this event is organized by the Camp Harambe, the People, Inc., and their quotation reads, "Our women are the mothers of civilization and queens of the universe." Thank you, Brother Charlie Duggar. So, folks, as again, we're going to have a great discussion today talking about black baseball. And so we're going to start with a little quote that I read here from the good brother George Eccles when he serves us with the Negro League memorabilia and clothing and shirts and jerseys, etc. It starts off by saying, Negro Leagues baseball. Baseball fans know the color line in organized baseball was broken in 1945 when Branch Rickey signed Jackie Robinson. We can start that song, sir. Jackie Robinson.
If you take the good
with
book
the Brooklyn Dodgers
and
organization.
you take a good look,
Few, however, have any appreciation of the baseball culture which produced Jackie Robinson baseball. Behind the scenes, behind the color barrier, provided almost everything, and in some cases more than was offered by Major League Baseball. Negro League Baseball, as we affectionately call it black baseball today, they had World Series, East-West All-Star games, bitter rivalries, packed stadiums, great tales of courage, and most of all, talented players. The Negro Leagues included the Negro National, Eastern Colored, American Negro, East-West, Negro Southern, and Negro American Leagues. Organized black baseball began with the founding of the Negro National League in 1920 by Rube Foster, and ended as the Negro League concluded play in the late 60s. Organized and licensed by the Negro League Baseball Museum in Kansas City, Missouri. But today, in studio, we have several Negro League experts, and we're going to ask the Negro League ambassador, the official Negro League ambassador, in the strong stalwart for the Negro League Museum here in Baltimore, which is called the Hubert Burt Simmons Negro League Museum of Maryland, housed in the Baltimore County Library at the Owens Mills Metro Station. So, Mr. Banks, pull up to your mic and make sure we can hear you. Pull up to that mic and say hello.
Hello.
Okay. So, Mr. Banks, you brought a nice crowd of people with you today. So let's start by introducing everyone, have everyone pull up to the mic and say hello. So why don't you start to your right, and then we're going to talk to those persons that we talk to you, Mr. Banks. So introduce some of your best friends. All of you guys pull up to the mic, say your name, say hello.
I'm Ray Banks, known as the Negro League ambassador, and proud to be a co-owner of the museum.
And to your right?
To my left here is Elmira Thornton, volunteer for our museum, very educated on the highlighting of the three women who played in the Negro League that you may not know about.
So we're going to get back to those names. Let's go to your far left, and who's that brother over in the corner there?
And my brother over in the corner is a duplication of myself, Coach Don Conway, very unique in what he does and very familiar with all the history of Negro League baseball and black history in general.
And also in studio, we're joined by, just say their names.
Oh, Mr. Derwin Whitehead, who I'm so proud to be as my godson, and very educated, and has brought a pleasure to our museum, and it's been a joy. And in back of me, I'm so happy to say that we have a president who's taken us to everywhere. Mrs. Ruth Maiden, brand new. She's been on board, I believe, a couple of years with us now, but I'm very happy that she is our president, our leader of the Hubert V. Simmons Museum of Negro League Baseball.
So thank you for introducing everybody, Mr. Banks. Before I go to each individual, tell us a little bit about the creation and what it took to open a black museum in the Baltimore County Library. Tell us about that quickly.
It's been a blessing. Just really started way back, I imagine, in 2011 or maybe even before that. It was an idea that took place at Lockhearn Presbyterian Church. Mm-hmm. Mr. Herbert Simmons, Bert Simmons, him and I used to go out all over the place talking about the Negro League. I would highlight the artifacts and he would do the talking because he played for the Baltimore Eli Giants back in the 50s. And then he said one day, him and his wife, Miss Audrey, called me up and said, Ray, we want you to come over to the house, and we want to talk to you about something that you may be very interested in doing. And the conversation was so wonderful. It was really a start, a seed that was planted. And they asked me to be a co-founder of a museum. Mr. Simmons and his wife, Miss Audrey, they were the founders. And when they asked me that, I was so overjoyed. I had all the artifacts and everything. And the next thing I knew, we met Baltimore County Executive Kevin Kamenetz, who was a wonderful person, very heartfelt person. And he asked at the Pike's Diner one day at our grad feast, Mr. Banks, is there anything I can do to help you out? And as a politician, when they make promises to you, to me, it goes in one ear and comes out the other ear. But I felt something very important with this gentleman's heart. He said, I'm going to get back with you. I'm going to do all I can to see if I can help you out. So about a month later, his office called us up and said they're still working on it. We still didn't believe him. And then he called us up and told us that, look, how would you guys like to be in a library up in Owings Mills, Maryland? And when he said that, my antennas went up and everybody else's antennas went up. Mr. Simmons had passed at that time, but it's been a joy. We had a ribbon ceremony on March the 27th in 2014 at the library. We had over 300 people in that room, which was really over capacity. Thank God the fire marshal didn't come by that day to catch all that crowd. We had on site with us two Tuskegee Airmen, Dr. Cyril Byron. At that time, he was 100 years old as our guest, and the 99-year-old Tuskegee Airman, Lieutenant Louis. And we had a few of the barnstorming Negro League players on site with us, and we also had the Buffalo Soldiers in their uniform to give us a lot of support. But mainly the support came from all my friends, everybody who really wanted to see this thing take off. And brother, did it take off.
Now, what year was that, right?
That was on May the 27th in 2014 when we had our ribbon ceremony at the library.
May 27th, 2014.
2014.
So May 27th, in about 3 weeks, is going to be, the 11th anniversary?
About that, yes. We've been together for a long time.
And so the museum is in the Baltimore County Public Library, free admission to the library, of course.
Free admission.
And so people who go into the library, they also can go to, what is it, third floor?
It's the first, second, third, and fifth floor, and we're about to go up on the sixth floor to create an art gallery. So we've been very, very blessed.
Yeah, that is really a wonderful thing when you can mention that it was a Baltimore County executive, not even an African-American cabinet communist, rest in peace, that made that possible. So that's good news, because often we don't find the relationships between community efforts and elected officials end up in such a beautiful museum, in such a beautiful place that has its own wherewithal.
Yes.
Children need to be in the library, that's for sure. Adults need to be in the library. What better place to go to see black baseball? And the other black museum, they do have one other Negro League museum. And two more?
Yes.
So where's the two at? And we're going to come.
The one is in Kansas City, Missouri, and the third one is in Birmingham, Alabama.
So now we're going to go right to you, since you done jumped on the mic. And this is our friend, the coach, Coach Conway. So Coach Conway, tell us a little bit why you're here. What's the most important thing as we look at black baseball to you today?
I'm Don Conway. I'm a collector and display of black memorabilia. Negro League baseball, blacks on African Americans on United States postage stamps, black athletes on cereal boxes, and the Negro League baseball. Today, I am going to talk about 3 phases of the Negro League baseball. 1, the Maryland-born Negro League players, my Blue Dot Negro League players, and the Negro League baseball players that's been honored on a United States postage stamp. First, the Maryland-born black players are Russell Awkward from Howard County, Ernest Burke from Havre de Grace, Maryland, Leroy Farrell from Chestertown, Bob Harvey from St. Michael's, Gordon Hopkins from Albany, Maryland, William Judy Johnson from Snow Hill, Maryland, Slim Jones from Baltimore, Vince Lee from Baltimore, and Murray Watkins from Towson, Maryland. My next part is my Blue Dot ball players. I call them my Blue Dot ball players because all 11 of them were members of the Negro League baseball. They were all members of the Major League Baseball, and now all 11 are honored in the Major League Hall of Fame. Hank Aaron, Ernie Banks, Willard Brown, Roy Campanella, Larry Doby, Monty Irvin, Willie Mays, Minnie Minoso, Buck O'Neill, Satchel Paige, and Jackie Robinson. The Negro League ball players that are honored on a United States postage stamp. This is one of the greatest honors any person can receive in this country. They are Leroy Satchel Paige, the oldest rookie in the major leagues. Josh Gibson, who now holds 3 major league records. Larry Doby, the second black to be inducted in, second black to play in the major leagues, and also the second black manager. Roy Campanella, the first black catcher in the major leagues, and he's also honored 3 times as the most valued player. Hank Aaron, number has been retired twice, number 44. Hank Aaron broke Babe Ruth's record by hitting 715 home runs. Rube Foster, who we call the father of the Negro League Baseball. Jackie Robinson, I saved him for last because that was my hero, and Jackie has been honored on a United States postage stamp 3 different times. No other black has been honored on a postage stamp that many times. Jackie Robinson number has been retired. Number 42 is retired in all of baseball.
Thank you,
If I
sir.
have a few more seconds, I would like to tell you about a few new facts of baseball.
Could you hold those and we'll come back to
Okay.
you for your second phase?
All right.
What I want to do now is honor the fact that 3 women played in Negro League Baseball. And we're going to turn to my uncle's namesake, Mrs. Thornton, who did such a wonderful presentation at Mount Pleasant. So, Mrs. Thornton, what brings you to the table today?
I'm here because I was invited to speak about the women. And I would just like to share that a lot of people were very surprised to find out that women actually played on the same team with the men. The name of the team was the Indianapolis Clowns.
Excuse me for one moment. Before you go further, let's dedicate your remarks concerning the women who played in the Negro League Baseball. Let's dedicate your remarks to Geraldine Day,
Yes.
Cam A. Murphy, and Miss Audrey Simmons. Sorry, but I thought we need to put their names out there. So, Ms. Thornton, continue, please.
I think that was beautiful
Thank you.
because I had a chance to meet those 3 ladies and I was very much impressed. The 3 women's names were, the first one to come to play was Toni Stone. She was second base. And why they had invited them was during that time when Jackie went to the majors in 47, it was a plus and a minus. And Cy Pollock, who was the owner of the Indianapolis Clowns, was trying to keep the team base alive. And one idea was to bring in women. And as I said, the first one was Toni Stone, who played second base. The next one was Connie Morgan, who also played second base. And the third was Mamie Peanut Johnson, who was a pitcher.
And it's wonderful that, unlike Major League Baseball, and much like the NFL draft that could not only find its way to draft only one player from the HBCU football season they drafted, the Baltimore Ravens were the only team out of 257 draft picks. The Baltimore Ravens were the only team that drafted a player from the HBCU schools. And so when we look at Major League Baseball, and I'm going to turn back to Ray for a moment, when Major League Baseball discriminated against blacks, black baseball did not discriminate against women. That shows you the humility and the humanality of how we as blacks, we try to be more inclusive. Everybody should be a part of what we're doing. So, Ray, when you look at, and I know we all knew, rest in peace, Miss Mamie Peanut Johnson. So, Ray, in your mind, I know you knew Miss Mamie. Talk up a little bit about Miss Mamie.
I guess Miss Mamie was small in size, but she had a heart of gold, a big heart. And she wanted to prove that she fitted in. She wanted to really express her talents. And the reason she wanted to do this because she was talented herself, and she liked to play baseball as a young lady, and she did that, and she played it well. But there's a story that how she got the name Peanut that my colleague Elmira Thornton can talk a little bit about why that name fitted her.
And I still did like Miss Peanut. I remember meeting her at the Negro League signings and book cards and shows, and she came in from Southwest D.C., but she was always a happy lady. So what's the story about the Peanut?
Peanut was pitching against another team, and excuse me, one of the members of the other team said, "How can you strike anybody out and you're about as big as a peanut?" And you know what happened? She struck him out and was smart enough to keep the nickname.
Very good. And Mamie Peanut Johnson is immortalized on the wall in Washington, D.C. at the Ben's Chili Bowl. She's right up there with Obama and Mayor Marbury and all those folks who come out of D.C. and that keeps Mamie alive. So now we're going to turn our attention to Mr. Derwin. You can pull up to the mic, introduce yourself, and tell us why you're here.
Yes, my name is Derwin Whitehead. I'm one of the young board members at the museum. I was being assigned to do the week-long event for Maryland's Negro League Day, second Saturday in May, and I put together a plan to try to do something this year. So, because it was very important for us as a museum to make this celebration come alive, because if we don't do it, no one will do it. So Joe Gans and the museum partners up to do the event for the this week. We're starting off on May 4th at the Oriole Park, where executive donors and our board members and some close individuals will be at the game, starting the celebration with us that day. On May 5th, we're doing Joe Gans and the history of the fire department. We'll do a 2-hour presentation at the museum. On May 7th, we have a presentation of the women of baseball, focusing on the ladies that played and the ladies that worked behind the scenes. And we have a special event, the Black Diamonds play that was presented, that I saw was a very good play, and I said this play needs to be at the museum. So we have 2 sessions of the play on that day, and it's free for. Just want to make sure it's free for the any individuals to come and see the play. We'll have a little bit of food, and they'll be able to see the play. On May 10th, on Negro Day in Maryland, we will be at the Olympic Indoor Sport. We're getting several young gentlemen, introduce them into the game of baseball, have some hitting skills available, having some batting skills available, and some pitching skills available. So we're busing some kids down, providing them a shirt, hat, and some good skill work with all the coaches that we have there at that moment.
Okay, so Mr. Whitehead, let's first go back and let's regroup on some of the things you say, because sometimes we got to say things 2 or 3 times for people to catch it. This is Lou Fields, your host of the Business Talk Show. Tune in to this last Tuesday of April, Pam Mitchell's birthday. We're in studio with Negro League experts, people who have taken their interest and their support and their resources to bond together to keep the legacy alive. So I'm talking to Mr. Whitehead. Mr. Whitehead, you mentioned there is an official Negro League Day in the state of Maryland. Tell me about that.
Yes, it is. As Ray just talked about it earlier, but the second Saturday of May is Negro League Day in Maryland. How
did that come about? How does that happen? How do you get a Negro League Day in Maryland? Ray, you want to add into that? I mean, is it something that we just say it is, or is it something official?
It is.
Tell the audience, how do we get Negro League Day in Maryland?
Well, the fact of the matter is how it really happened. My daughter, Tanya Thomas, wanted one day out of a year dedicated to the Negro League. So she went to our good colleague, God rest his soul, former delegate Melvin Stoops.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. So they got together Melvin got Senator Adrian Jones, I believe, at the time together, and all the other delegates. We had to
at the Maryland General Assembly now.
At the Maryland General Assembly House, we all had to go down to Annapolis and testify. Mm-hmm. We had about 3 minutes each to say a few words. The ball players, the wives, the friends. And we got the bill. The bill was passed on May the 7th, 2009. The second Saturday in the month of May, Negro League Day in the state of Maryland, House Bill 48, Senate Bill 248, House Bill 84. It's on the books down in Annapolis, but very few people know about this important day, the second Saturday in May.
Telling the whole world.
And I want the whole world to really go all out, celebrate this massive day on a massive scale by wearing something that symbolizes Negro League baseball. We need this.
Well, it's a big ado to thank these public officials. Often we in the African-American community, sometimes we just don't realize some of the good work cabinets did to get the museum out there in Baltimore County. Not in no run-of-the-mill neighborhood, out there in a very fabulous multi-million-dollar development.
Yes.
And here we have to thank again Speaker Jones and the former delegate Melvin Stukes to have an official legislative day signed by the Maryland General Assembly and approved by the governor of the state. So second Saturday in May forever is Negro League Day in Maryland.
And also the governor at that time was Governor Martin O'Malley.
Excellent. And so we have another lady in studio, so pull right up, ma'am. And I'm sorry I don't have your bio, but tell people who you are and why you're here.
Hi, I'm Ruth Maiden, and I have the pleasure of serving as the president of the museum, the Hubert V. Simmons Museum.
Well, you get a round of applause. We don't get a lot of presidents in here.
Thank you. But, I'm new to the museum, and I became involved because Audrey Simmons, who was such a dedicated person and who wanted to make sure that this museum lives on and on. She started talking to me about it, and one thing led to another. She's a very persuasive woman even now. So I said yes. I don't know.
Weren't you and I had a dinner, and you sat at a table with me?
It could be. When we talked about A1Cs.
Yes. It was Wayne Frazier's event, and I was all on your case.
Yes, you were. You were.
I was asking all kinds of questions.
Yes, you did.
Well, welcome to the Cameron Hughes studio, Madam President. So congratulations, and it was great again to see the president be a female. I mean, it's good news for us. And I think this is the kind of good news that left the people over there at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, let them know we got diversity going strong.
Well, you're right about that. And you said something earlier that really struck me when you were talking about the power of the community. These days, when everything related to the accomplishments of people of color are being erased from our libraries, from our education places, the universities, the curriculum in school, it's just, it's really up to us, the community, to make sure that people understand our history and understand how important it is for us to not wait for somebody else to do it. This group, the group that put together the Hubert V. Simmons Museum, they knew nobody was going to do it if they didn't, and they worked tirelessly. So it's really important for everybody in the community, black, white, Asian, everybody. Please come out and understand the trials that these people went through the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s. We can't take stuff for granted. And these people were not paid the big salaries we hear about now for professional players. These were people who played ball for the love of the game. And they had support from small towns. People would come, they'd have their fried chicken and their Sunday best. They would watch these games and follow the teams when they were on the road. So it's really important for us to let, especially the younger people, understand that it takes hard work, it takes support from a community for them to be able to succeed. And they need to understand the sacrifices of the people who came before. And think more about what they can do as individuals. You don't have to act as though everything is all doom. It's hard, but it's not all doom. So we want to encourage young people to come out, see the museum, come to our events. And for the older crowd, those of us with the gray hair, come out and reminisce. Think about those games, think about those people, and help us tell the story of the museum.
Thank you, Madam President. And we're going to take our 11:30 break, and we'll be right back in 45 seconds.
Did you see Jackie Robinson hit that ball? It went zooming across the left field wall. Yes, yes, Jackie hit that ball. He swung his bat and the crowd went wild, 'cause he hit that ball a solid mile. Oh, yes, yes, Jackie hit that ball. Well, now Satchel Paige is mellow, and so is Campanello. Newcomb and Dobie too. But it's a natural fact, when Jackie comes to bat, the other team is through. Did you see Jackie Robinson hit that ball? Really hit it? Yes, and that ain't all. He stole home. Yes, yes, Jackie's a real gone.
Your host, Lou Fields, with the Business Talk Show. In studio, we have with us the Negro League Black Baseball Ambassador. We have the coach. We have the board member. We have the president. And we have an organizer of the second Saturday Negro League Day in Maryland. Official. Before we go there, though, we're going to take caller 9 on line 1, Mr. Ronald Hill. Mr. Hill, can we turn it?
Yes.
Mr. Hill up live?
Some of them, when I... Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Hello?
Mr. Hill, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Can we hear you? Oh, I don't have my things on. So, Mr. Hill.
Yes, I can hear you.
Let's talk about your ancestor, and thank you for calling in. Where are you calling in from, Mr. Hill?
Well, I'm on the road right now, so I think I'm in somewhere in Maryland. I'm doing a little business deal right now.
So where do you live? Where do you reside?
I live in Frederick.
Frederick, Maryland?
Yes, sir.
And so tell us what you have to share for this conversation about black baseball. You have all of 2 minutes.
Oh, I only get 2 minutes? Okay.
Yeah, we only have about 15 left.
Okay, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So my great uncle was probably one of the first black baseball players that was played for some of the greatest teams, and he was born in Culpeper County, Virginia. And he came to Pittsburgh during the Great Migrations and played for the first black baseball team in the colored league called Keystones, the Pittsburgh Keystones, and that's where he started at. And after that, he moved on to some of the greatest teams that was ever assembled in black baseball, like the Cuban X-Giants, the Baltimore Black Sox, the Detroit Stars, and Milwaukee teams. So he was considered as a five-tool player, so.
Well, I appreciate what you're doing to keep his memory alive. And it says here that he also was a manager with the 1925 Black Sox?
Yeah, Baltimore Black Sox.
Wow, 1925. Ooh, that's going way back. That's almost a good 30, almost 30 years before the Orioles even came to Baltimore.
Yeah, you have to remember he started playing baseball in 1899, and he ended in Baltimore in 1925.
Yeah, I see he's born October 12, 1882, and it looks like he was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame?
In 2006.
2006. And so if people wanted to follow up and contact you and maybe have you come and speak about your uncle, how could they contact you?
We have a Pete Hill website that you can get in touch with me, or you can call me on my home phone if you like to. It's like 412-606-5003.
Say that number one more time.
412-606-5003.
Folks, we're talking with the nephew of John Preston Pete Hill, who was one of the great early black baseball folks. I'm reading the bio that you were so kind to share with me. It states that among 20th century baseball players, John Preston Pete Hill, 1882, 1951, the year I was born, was considered the equal of Babe Ruth, Tom Cobb, and Tris Speaker. Only skin color kept him out of the majors. A capable manager. And we don't talk enough about Negro League baseball players who were managers and umpires. A capable manager, Hill captained the Negro League Chicago-based American Giants, led 2 expansion teams, and retired from the sport as manager of the Baltimore Black Sox. Drawing on contemporary newspaper accounts, the first ever biography of Hill recounts the career of a neglected Hall of Famer in the context of turbulent issues that surrounded him: segregation, women's suffrage, prohibition, and the Spanish flu. So, Mr. Hill, so tell me, how did you first learn about your uncle being in the Negro Leagues?
So what happened was, my parents used to tell us that we had a great baseball player in the family, and when I played Little League Baseball, at this particular time, we never paid any attention to it, right? So what happened was that Ancestry.com contacted my relatives and said, hey, you have a great baseball player in your family, and it was Pete Hill. So what I did was I began to do the research on it, and this is where I met Ray Banks down in Virginia, because when they was honoring Pete Hill in Virginia, where he came from, Ray showed up. And that's the first time I met Mr. Banks.
Yeah, Ray will show up, that's for sure.
Yeah, Ray came out somewhere. I said, oh, how you doing, Mr. Banks?
It's all over after that.
Yeah.
He like Harriet Tubman. Once he get a hold of you, it's over.
Yeah. So he, I talked to Ray, and Ray said, well, hey, we're gonna promote him for you, and Ray's been doing a pretty good job for me.
Oh yeah, and ambassador's no joke. Here's what we're gonna do, Mr. Hill, because we run a show
one more
time.
One more thing. Rube Foster was the father of baseball, but Pete Hill was his right-hand man.
Okay.
So if it wasn't for those two, there wouldn't be no Jackie Robinsons. There wouldn't be none of these other guys. Those were the pioneers of black baseball.
Pioneers, great.
So you can't leave them out of the history, because they always want to start with the Josh Gibsons, but you got to go back before that, because there wouldn't be none of those players.
Yes.
And then you got to realize that how they said about Ty Cobb. Well, Pete played against Ty Cobb in the Cuban leagues down in Cuba. The Detroit Tigers would go down there and play the Cuban teams, and Pete held the batting championship down there.
And you know what we need to do when we have a chance to talk about the Negro League players playing abroad, but we want to thank you for your strong support of the Bert Simmons Museum. And the idea I have is for us to bring the Negro League Barnstorming Tour to Frederick, Maryland, and support you and what you're doing out there. And all of us, one good Saturday, we come on out there and do some work. And so I want to ask you to hold on, listen in if you can. But I got about 8-9 more minutes. I want to get our round table discussion going on this question. And I'm going to go to the coach first, and we're going to follow around 60 seconds or less. Name your favorite Negro League ball player, each of you. Mr. Hill, just hold on.
My favorite Negro League ball player, as I told you before, is Jackie Robinson. I always wanted to be like Jackie when I was in high school. Wanted to go to UCLA, but I didn't get a chance to do that. But I followed him throughout my collection and displays. I met his wife twice, met his daughter once. I met his daughter 3 times, right.
Okay, Ms. Thornton?
My favorite were the 3 women. And I admire them because it took a lot of courage back in the 50s to step away from what women were supposed to do and were supposed to be and follow their dreams.
That's Mamie, Tony, and Connie. Mr. Banks?
I'm going to be partial because I met Miss Geraldine Day, the Word of Leon Day, in 1996, just before he died a year ago. But Leon Day, folks, if you match up his statistics with Satchel Paige, they met 4 times. Leon Day beat him 3 out of 4 times. He was not one-dimensional. He could play every position except catch. Satchel pitched. Leon Day played every position except catch, and he did it well. He's very humble. He wouldn't speak up, but that's my favorite ball player.
Okay. Mr. Durbin?
It would have been Josh Gibson. I mean, I really love Josh Gibson because I used to catch when I used to play. But going down and talking to Ron, Pete Hill being a Baltimore, Maryland native and played here, and seeing Mr. Ron Hill, the producer of the Sugar Hill Gang, I was very impressed when I went to his home and him giving me all the information about Pete Hill. So right now, Pete Hill is one of my favorite players in the Negro League.
Madam President?
Oh, boy. I guess I have to say Roy Campanella. And that's because when I was a kid, he was the first black player that I was aware of. And when I learned years later, decades later, that he was a Negro Leagues player, that just really endeared me.
Well, I personally would give you guys my favorite. I really thank you because you guys gave some great names, and I'm so glad we brought up the name of Josh Gibson, whose son I met, and of course Roy Campanella. What a great man! Leon Day is my all-time favorite Negro League baseball player. But for today's conversation, I'm going to throw out the name of John Buck O'Neill, who did so much to help so many others till finally he got his day, and he got his day in the Hall of Fame. I tell you, these names you guys are called have been wonderful. And folks, for me, this goes back to 1993 when I volunteered for the Orioles All-Star Game. And the Orioles had 25 members of the Negro Leagues to come to this 1993 Major League Baseball game being held at Oriole Park. And they had 25 Negro League baseball players. And they needed one person to chaperone each of those players. I drew the name of Martinez Reginald Jackson, who, of course, is the father of Reggie Jackson. He was 80 at that time, and Mr. Jackson is the one who helped me understand more about the Negro League players. Monty Irvin was there, Red Moore, Buck Leonard. But throughout the 5-day celebration, there was always this little guy sitting in the back of the room, very quiet, never saying anything. And that was the Hall of Famer, Leon Day. And the only reason he's not included in Coach Conway's list, because he was born in Alexander, Virginia, but he came to Baltimore 6 months of age, so we call him Baltimore. And so we're hopeful now that we have the Leon Day Park, the renovations, according to the mayor I spoke to last week, they're going to be restoring the park very soon. And I want to lastly say this. Today is the day. Help us build the first statue to an African-American Negro League baseball star in Baltimore. Segregation barred Leon Day from the white major leagues, but his outstanding record, 5 different championships, strikeout king, play every position but catcher. Well, so we are working now to see if we can get him a statue, thanks to Mr. Dr. Bob Hieronymus. So now I'm going to go back to the panel. And Mr. Hill, you're going to be a part of this panel. So the question is for each of your panelists, it's 11:48. We got 7 minutes. So each of you panelists take 60 seconds, including Mr. Hill, to tell us, is there anything else that you want to say about black baseball that we might have missed? So starting with Coach, and we're going to go around the room, 60 seconds or less. Anything we missed?
Negro League played from 1920 to 1948, and now they are recognized as Major League players. On December the 16th, 2020, 3,400 Negro League players became Major League ball players. The last game played in the Negro Leagues was in 1958. The last East-West All-Star game, which was an outstanding event every year, was in 1962. The last team played in the Negro League was the Indianapolis Clowns in 1966. These are facts that we need to carry on with us throughout our discussion of Negro League baseball.
Mrs. Thornton, anything we missed that you want to share?
Just come out and join us during the week of May 5th and learn more about what the women had to endure during those times.
Okay, we're going to ask Mr. Durman to hit those when he have his comments. Mr. Banks, anything we missed?
I'm asking everybody to do some research. You have a device in your hand that I didn't have when I was growing up called a phone. You can pull up anything you want to. Look up the civil rights baseball game that nobody knows about that took place in 2002. And as I mentioned before, don't forget the second Saturday in May, Negro League Day in the state of Maryland.
Okay, so we got the Orioles game at May 4th at the Oriole Park. We have the May 5th. We will be spotlighting Joe Gans. He had a baseball team, played baseball. He was a championship boxer.
And where's that going to be at?
That's going to be at the museum.
Okay, and what time?
Starting at 5:30 to 8, and you will have two conversations, the Joe Gans and the history of Baltimore Fire Department.
That's going to be May 5th, the Negro League Baseball Bert Simmons Museum out there in Baltimore County starts at 5:30.
5:30, yes, sir.
Okay. Then you said May 7th and May 10th.
Yeah, so May 7th it starts at 4:30. Probably doors will open up at 5, starting at the play to see the Black Diamonds play. We will have also commentation and talks of the women of baseball playing in the back behind the scenes, also being talked about that day. And then at May 10th at Olympic Indoor Sport Columbia in Columbia, 9179 Red Branch Road, starting at 12 o'clock. Bring your young kids in, 6 to 11. Come enjoy and get some knowledge of baseball.
And Madam President?
Okay, I'd like for all of our listeners to visit our website. I'm going to give you the contact. It's www.SMN, that means Simmons Museum Negro Leagues, that's NLB, Inc.org. That's a bit long. I think if you go to Simmons Museum for Negro Leagues Baseball, you'll be able to find our website. You'll see some examples of our exhibitions. You'll see some references to materials that you can look at. And we'd love for you to come visit and think about volunteering. Our board needs volunteers to do the work of spreading the word about the museum and the contributions of Negro Leagues players.
Thank you very much to the panel. And as we begin to wind down, we want to thank all of those who played in the Negro Leagues, all the fans, all the supporters, all the owners, everybody who had anything to do with keeping black baseball alive from 1920 all the way through 1960. We especially want to thank the players, their families, and their wives for those sacrifices. I remember Leon Day saying about his first contract, if you promised him $40 and a crab cake, and Leon would always say, I got the crab cake, but I never got the $40. And so in closing, as we round out this show in the next 2 minutes, I just want to give a tribute to Ernest Burke and Cammy Murphy up in Hagerstown, Maryland. They have a wonderful statue of Mr. Burke. On May 24th is Willie Mays Day because he played his first game in Hagerstown at the Flying Boxcar game. That'll be May 24th. And so we just want to thank all of you for coming in the studio today. And as we wind down, I want to read a little bit from the book, Dandy, Day and the Devil by James A. Riley, with a foreword by Leon's good friend, Hall of Famer Marty Irvin. And a shout out to the Max Manning family as well, because he was one of Leon's most closest friends. Mm-hmm. Leon Day, the best pitcher in the Negro National League during the last 15 years of its existence, was a slender right-hander with a blinding fastball. His name was Day, but he was the color of night. I had the pleasure of meeting the former pitching ace a half a dozen summers ago while trekking up the Atlantic seaboard in search of veterans from the Negro Leagues. When I arrived at his home on Harlem Avenue in Baltimore, Leon greeted me in his bathrobe and proved to be a gracious host. I spent an enjoyable afternoon in his living room listening to stories about the players from the Negro Leagues. As is his manner, Leon talked more about the others than about himself. Leon is soft-spoken, has a quick wit, and a charming sense of humor. The next stop on my itinerary was with Bill Harvey, a left-handed pitcher who played with the Pittsburgh Crawfords and the Baltimore Light Giants. They called to tell him that I was on my way. They quoted when he called, he says, "There's a man here looking for you from the IRS." He deadpanned, getting a good chuckle from Harvey's reaction before finally telling his former teammate the real purpose of his call. After hanging up the phone, he laughed and said, "Harvey's older than a New Guinea coconut tree, and they have to be 100 years old before they bear coconuts." I've talked with Leon several times since, at the Negro League reunions and more recently when he visited Ray Dandridge in Florida. At the reunions, an observer would have never guessed that this quiet, fun-loving player was a fellow who had been one of the best pitchers in the Negro Leagues. Awesome. Leon is unpretentious and genuinely unaffected by his past accomplishments. He is satisfied to sit quietly outside the spotlight and let someone else hold center stage. Only rarely, unless responding to a direct question, will he relate his own dominant experience, because that would be much like bragging. His modesty belies the great player that he truly was. Day was the Newark Eagles' ace moundman, delighted in hooking up with Satchel Paige. Monty Irvin speaks for the Negro League veterans when he discusses these matchups and merits of his former teammate. One day, this is Monty Irvin, quote, "One day we were playing against Satchel Paige, and Leon said, 'Get me a run.' But Satchel had a shutout, and Leon hit a home run that won the game." That's the kind of play he was. Lord have mercy, Jesus Christ. So we're going to give the final word to the Negro League's ambassador, Ray. So why don't you wrap this up and just tell us about your time and your daughter and the work you've been able to do and how you just bring all these people together to support this wonderful cause of black baseball, the legacy.
Well, to the audience, I want to first of all say that I've been walking in Brother Lou Fields' steps for a long, long, long time. He's the one that led me on this path. God the Father has blessed me in so many ways to be able to reach out to a Don Conway, to reach out to a George Echoes, to reach out to Mara Thornton, Phil Powers, and Peter Kuba. The organization that we have, we're like family. And we could go a longer way. And my son sitting right next to me, Duran Whitehead, God's blessed me. I've met so many players, about 70 Negro League ball. I don't brag about my accomplishments.
But you done the job, Ray. Not to cut you off, but we got 20 seconds left. You done the job, and we're going to give the last hand clap to our Negro League baseball ambassador. This is how we want to do. You're a great man, a coach of dedicated children. God will continue to bless you. Thank you. Next week, we're going to travel and tourism all through the month of May. Don't forget, take your A1C check and check your diabetes. Thank you, folks.
Thanks for listening to the Business Talk Show. To repeat or to hear a previous recorded show, go to www.wolbbaltimore.com and click on the Business Talk Show tab. Sponsored by The Alliance and a taste of soul.biz. For more information, email thebizshow410@gmail.com.
Talking the day, soul at night on the new 1010 WOLB.